me take you along on a journey. Imagine the universe, a small planet. On this planet, a tiny little country. In this country, millions and millions of people. One of them, me. Who am I with all my dreams? A UN peace soldier in the Sudan once gave me the most beautiful definition of a dream. He said a real dream is the same for anybody on this planet. Doesn't matter if you're a millionaire or a homeless person, a real dream is something which hovers on your horizon. And you know that if you try really hard, stay persistent, find help, get lucky, keep your sense of humor, that maybe this one dream you have is possible. So he said, a real dream challenges you to become the best version of yourself, to turn your life into your own ultimate adventure story. I believe most of us are so inspired by our own dreams, but the moment we think about putting them into reality, they turn into these seemingly impossible ventures. As a young actress, aged 24, I created a seemingly impossible adventure story. And the moment I created the story, the idea for the story, I realized that this story would only be really funny, scary, and hopefully worthwhile if I would put this story into reality. So it would become a real-life adventure story with stories of real people and the real world. I created a story of a girl on a tractor. A journey to the end of the world and back. And I thought, what is the end of the world? And then I thought, if I were a child, because children still have this open, unprejudiced view on the world, which is so important to keep while growing up. If I were a child, I would say the end of the world. The end of the world, that's the South Pole. That sounds like wanting to go to the moon on a tractor. But maybe it is possible. And as an adult, I immediately, cynically thought, the end of the world is a famine area, a country at war, a place where people lose hope. That's the end of the world. And then I thought, both voices inside me said, go. What if I get on this tractor and I start traveling all the way down to the South Pole? I'll probably come through many places which as an adult you could call the end of the world. And I thought of Bosnia, Kosovo, the Sudan, northern Kenya, famine area, northern Uganda, child soldiers, Zimbabwe. I thought I'll get on this tractor with my open mind and people can follow this seemingly impossible journey of this girl on a tractor. And on my way, all the way down south, I will look for inspiring people, stories that somehow prove that the end of the world doesn't exist, because you can always find someone who doesn't give up hope, who keeps trying, who does, and this way inspires others. And then I thought, if there's one story I hope to tell, it is this story. And maybe I shouldn't act it out in theater. Maybe I should just do it. Doe maar gewoon, nu al gek genoeg. In Holland, we have this saying, just do normal and then you're already crazy enough. Just do normal and then you're already crazy. Just do normal. Just do. Do. The moment I started thinking about putting this seemingly impossible story into reality, my biggest fears arise. What on earth was I planning? Who wanted to drive a tractor to the South Pole? What if I tried and I didn't make it? I would forever feel a loser. What if I tried and I lost everything I'd built up so far in my young life as an actress? Come on, who would ever believe that I was capable of doing such a thing? I believe most of us are stopped from realizing our dreams, not by our reality, but by our fears. I believe fear is one of the most harmful ingredients in human lives. and it's one of the most harmful ingredients to our world. And the only way I manage to deal with this enormous fear, because I have lots of it, is just put it all out of me onto this piece of paper, write down all the obstacles I could envision. And then it turned out I had this really practical to-do list, and if I managed to tackle all these things, then I may be able to put this seemingly impossible venture into something realistic and maybe even safe. After these were 100,000 others. June 2005, I drove an old tractor to the island of the Schelling after a horrible year, I tell you, trying to set this all up. I never even set up a bingo. I drove a tractor to the island of the Schelling, and there I played a theater performance with the tractor. A performance as a gift to the people I would meet while traveling, and a means of communication about dreams, and more important, about doing them. Through this theater performance, I hope to collect the dreams of people I would meet. And these dreams would travel with me on the back of my tractor all the way to the South Pole. There, I wanted to keep them safe for future generations to learn about them. On this continent, where there'd never been war, where countries tried to work together, keep them for future generations. And as the ending of a children's book-like adventure story, I really wanted to build a snowman with the dreams of the world in its belly. The last day of the last theater festival, Oral on the Schelling, at the end of the final theater performance, I literally drove out of the theater performance into reality and started this real-life adventure story. Day 2, out of the Netherlands, I accidentally drove onto the highway around Antwerp. There were roadworks. The orange highway sign was covered with orange plastic. I drove under a building, and suddenly ahead of me, there was this 4-lane highway. My 30-year-old tractor had a maximum speed of 20 kilometers per hour, and now cars started overtaking me with 120 kilometers per hour. I felt like a demented old farmer taking the wrong turn, and right before the exit sign, me and my tractor were caught by the highway police and taken into custody. For 2.5 weeks, we were stuck in Belgium. And from Canada, New Zealand, Germany, Belgium, France, the Netherlands, radio stations, phone photographers came by, camera crews visited us, because they all wanted to hear this joke of a Dutch girl wanting to go to the South Pole on a tractor, but getting stuck in Belgium. I managed to overcome bureaucracy, got myself some Belgian number plates along the way, and I continued traveling, and I thought, if this is the beginning of my adventure, then what lies ahead of me? When I arrived in the Balkans, I was confronted with the harsh reality of life on our planet, with people living in a post-war country. How would they react to this happy tractor girl talking about dreams? I arrived in a country where anybody could easily go on holiday to, with beautiful mountains rising from the sea, smiling people at the side of the road, children that looked at me in the tractor as if I was a Spice Girl. When I looked closer, I saw remnants of the war. Under the surface, there were many stories, and people were eager to share them. I played my theater performance on various locations. One of them, a youth prison in Kosovo, and where the prison guards had made me play this theater performance in high security settings because they were afraid of what the prisoners might do to me, to me, not to the tractor, to me. But while playing my performance and started collecting their dreams, it felt completely silent. And the prisoners, as well as their guards, started writing down their dreams so seriously. And then it hit me that in that country, Kosovo, nobody has a passport. Everybody has to stay in that country to build it up away from the war. So it felt as if these dreams that they were writing down was the hope that they hope to keep, maybe not for their own lives, but for future generations so that they have a better life, or that writing that one dream down and making it travel along on the back of this tractor would actually mean that a little part of them could actually leave that country and go on a long journey. And in the years that followed, while traveling, I kept hearing from the prison director the stories and the questions from the prisoners and their guards. Where is the tractor girl now? What adventures has she been through? Are our dreams still traveling with her? Has she made it to the South Pole? I've traveled for 3 years and 8 months. I was a little bit slow. Over 38,000 kilometers through 22 countries with a maximum speed of 20 kilometers per hour. And I've always been safe. Not a mango was stolen from my tractor. And my openness, my friendliness, my curiosity created friendly responses, and me and the tractor had happy encounters and heard so many stories of the people we met while traveling. Today I believe that if you travel through life, through the world, with an open mind, your curiosity, you can truly get to the end of the world and back and be safe. There were times where I thought this journey would never end. Girl drives away into the distance, never to be heard of again. The day I started driving this tractor to the South Pole, I was 27 years old, and that day it hit me, never to be heard of again. And that day it hit me, I was about to turn 32. The day I arrived in Cape Town was one of the most beautiful days of my life. To finally see the Table Mountain and to arrive at the Cape of Good Hope just inspired inside myself so much hope. And suddenly I had to look back at all these things that had happened in those 4 years. And I thought back of the officials in Egypt that together had given me all these papers that made me travel anywhere in Egypt without a police escort, without a convoy. Because in this time of growing fear, we needed more stories that inspired hope, more good stories of this world. I thought of the people in the Sudan talking about peace, the soldiers on the tractor in the famine of northern Kenya that showed me so many stories. Almost every morning waking up with new local children playing hide and seek with me in the tractor. Meeting Wangari Maathai, the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize, who really proves that one woman can make an enormous difference to many lives. Having a jump start across the equator by local people, a project in Tanzania where rats can detect mines and rats can detect TBC, giving a local woman a ride to the hospital in Zimbabwe where there was no public transport and she was in breach and somehow I was there when she got a beautiful baby girl. The Hunger Project in Malawi, a big global organization that somehow inspires so many local people in poor regions to start creating a dream and a vision and helps them through this delicate process of believing that they can truly build their own existence away from poverty and hunger. And so they no longer need to be reliable on aid that we give them. So much is possible. I arrived at the Cape of Good Hope with thousands and thousands of dreams on the back of my tractor and beautiful stories that deserve to be told. There, I literally missed my boat. I'd been traveling for such a long time on this slow tractor that the icebreaker boat that had given me an invitation to take me and the tractor along to Antarctica had gotten a new job on the North Pole 6 weeks before I arrived. It sailed out of the harbor, and in between me, the Cape of Good Hope, and Antarctica lay 4,000 kilometers of ocean and no way of crossing it. I found men who, like little boys, were eager to modify this tractor on a mission for a South Pole expedition. But so far, my journey had been made possible with the sales of tractor t-shirts and kilometers, which also raised funds to the projects that I met while traveling. But now I was in need of a real sponsorship, and I couldn't find that. For 2.5 years, I kept trying and trying because I thought this journey really deserves a beautiful, happy ending. And I couldn't give up this idea of wanting to build a snowman at the South Pole. But after 2.5 years, it felt like I was stuck. And I called on these two men who were looking after my tractor in Cape Town and said, "Can you please put it back on a boat, back to the Netherlands, for a well-deserved retirement?" And with tears in their eyes, these men said goodbye to the tractor and put it on a boat. And they said, "We like your story so much, you do whatever you think you need to give it a beautiful ending." So while the tractor was on a boat back home, their words and something else touched me. And I finally picked up the courage to do this one thing that I, up until now, sorry, I make myself emotional with my raw voice. I finally picked up the courage to do this one thing I hadn't had the courage to do for yet, and I contacted this tractor company that I knew had a historical bond with their tractors on Antarctica, just to see if I could get the door ajar. And I didn't get the door ajar. The door went wide open, and they said, if there's one tractor driving on the South Pole, it should be a red tractor. So these past 2.5 years, together with this global tractor company, I've been setting up the most, ultimate ending to this tractor girl story, a South Pole expedition by tractor. And last September, me and the tractor were ready, and I met with my team in Iceland for a final trial expedition. A few days before we started the trial, right beside the glacier was this unexpected volcano eruption. And when I looked at this site, I thought, is this a bad omen of what is about to come? Or could it be the magical start of an epic ending to a crazy tractor girl story? I set foot on Antarctica, and it felt like the most surreal thing to do, to work towards something for so many years. I mean, it had been 12 years ago when I had the idea, for such a long time, and to finally see it happen is an amazing thing. And very carefully, I drove the tractor onto the snow and started driving. And after 2 or 3 days, I somehow noticed that the smile on my face just grew bigger and bigger because we're actually still driving. And somehow, I ended up driving 4,700 kilometers across this vast and enormous and rough landscape, when it felt like I was driving a tractor across the moon or one big frozen ocean. And it seemed like Antarctica every day was welcoming me, as if she said, it felt like a she, like Mother Earth was saying, have you finally made it? Welcome. I can't begin to describe how happy I felt arriving at the South Pole and how much energy it gave me to start telling this story.
Many years ago, I started traveling the world on a tractor. And everywhere I went, I asked people about their dreams and wishes. And I asked them to write them down or draw them on a small piece of paper. They all traveled with me, all over the world, on the back of my tractor. And I promised to take them with me all the way to the geographical South Pole. I think it's important to have dreams, but maybe it's even more important to have examples that dreams can come true. So, it took me 12 years, but I'm very happy to be here, carrying all these wishes, and I hope many of them have already come true too. So, yeah, this is Tractor Girl from Antarctica, well actually from the South Pole, as promised.
And then, no, sorry, nearly done. And then there was only one thing I still needed to do, something I'd promised to all these people I'd met on the way, and that is building a snowman with the dreams of the world in its belly. While bouncing around on this crazy tractor all across Antarctica, I just felt so inspired to start telling the story. So I can't wait, or actually I haven't waited, to start writing on the children's book, to turn it into theater, and to get all the film footage of these past years. I mean, I looked really young when I started the journey, and turn it into a beautiful movie. And the only reason why I want to do that, and why I'm here today now, is that somehow I hope that I can manage to inspire you to believe in the strength and the possibilities of your dreams.